think it still has like the Ragavan sideboard plan. Okay, good hand. Yeah, it's mid. Definitely the word to use. Oh, this hand is pretty vulnerable to Thoughtseize. See if we get the old Thoughtseize bug. No, but Sentinel's usually good against these style of decks. It's like Lightning Bolt was like the premier card of Modern when there were no other good removal spells. It's like, yeah, Lightning Bolt, you had Path to Exile. But now you have Fatal Push, Prismatic Ending, Unholy Heat, March of Otherworldly Light, Bloodchief's Thirst. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on and on. For good 1-mana removal spells, and you no longer just have... it's no longer just Bolt as the only option, or the best option by a lot. How do you do a Turok with no Bolt in the list? I mean, you just kill him, I guess. Turok's also, like, not that common of a card in the format. I don't know. This is also something that we don't talk about enough, or maybe we talk about it too much, but Magic players are obsessed with beating everything. They're like, I'm weak to Turok, I've got to play Lightning Bolts. But then they make their matchup spread across the board much worse by playing Lightning Bolt to beat a card that's not even that popular and is good against you anyways, because it's not like playing Lightning Bolt teleports it to your hand when there's a Turok in play. Just like, you know, you're a mostly white deck, you're going to be bad against Turok. That's okay. You're also kind of bad at flooding, huh? You know what I mean? I think that, like, it is totally acceptable for your out to be, I'm gonna lose to that card sometimes. And just try to think about your overall match win percentage. I think that I want to get Ragavan, but just cast Ragavan off the Ranger Captain. I could maybe get another Fervent Champ, but I think I want to get, you know, some cards here. And I'm just casting it because I think there's a decent chance they've got like another discard spell in their hand or like a Grief. Is it Pascal's deck? Not exact. No, they're playing Archon, so it's not like the HCA version, I think. Unholy Heat was the final Bolt Bolt being the premier removal spell. Yeah, I agree. Like Unholy Heat is better than Lightning Bolt in Modern. Absolutely. Okay, I do have Solitude in my deck, so I'm not just cold to Platinum Empyrean. I would love to just, like, freaking draw a land, or sorry, a spell. Main deck Platinum Empyrean is really interesting. I guess March could also theoretically deal with this. I guess I'm taking 8. That explains why they griefed my... Oh, boy. Yeah, I know I've been flooding all day. It just happens sometimes when you play as much as I do. Okay, Kaldra potentially is going to make my opponent pump the brakes. I think we get Kaldra. We could also get Lion Sash. We can play Lion Sash, make it a 4/4 immediately, and the next turn... Oh, I guess are there enough permanents? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, there are enough permanents. And then Sash is better against their Archon game plan... And yeah, we would have to hardcast the Kaldra next turn. I'm just trying to think. I think it's probably the Kaldra still. Although this does kind of use my mana better. 4/4, and then we just activate. We have to activate 5 more times, so we can potentially double spell next turn. Yeah, I think it's actually the Sash. Double jump here. The next turn we get to eat an Empyrean theoretically. Oh, I guess I need to start munching down. I'm probably not beating a Lightning Bolt anyways. But I think we might as well just do this. Yeah, Monkey doesn't trigger through the Empyrean. What do you think about Obosh, Red, and Pioneer? I guess I haven't seen anybody build it. I feel like it's possibly something you could do to effectively. Okay, so chump block, then draw 2 Solitudes in a row is how I get out of this. Or like, Wandering... No, that doesn't work. Okay. Another land off the top. Okay, I guess we want to bring in the Giant Killer. Do I want the Wear Tears? I'm not sure that I want the Wear Tears. I've got Giant Killer. I've got Wandering Emperor. I feel like I don't want the Wear Tears. I have 6 ways to kill an Empyrean. I think that's plenty. Great hand. I think Ramp and Pioneer might be underexplored. Is it too slow in the format? I remember back before Theros came out, like, Eldrazi Ramp was one of the better decks in the format. That being said, it has like an embarrassingly bad matchup, I think, against Lotus Field, and I think is also like weak to like other things in the format, but I think like specifically the Lotus Field matchup just seems so tough, and I do think having a bad Lotus Field matchup is a pretty bad place to be in Pioneer 2. No, I didn't put Wear Tear in. We have 6 other answers to Empyrean, including Ranger Captain tutoring for one of those answers. I think that at Wear Tear, they might even side out their Empyreans too. I don't think you want it. Deck Tech. I don't own Sentinel Captain. I'm a control player at heart, but love Stoneforge Mystic decks. What do you think of this list? Okay, can you post the link in the chat? I can take a look. Okay, so this is... I don't need to Solitude yet, I think. But they're going to take my Kaldra, and I think I need to Solitude this before they get to, you know, shoot back. Then at least stack the triggers to where they can't, with a future Voidwalker, get back the Solitude. But my opponent is out of cards in hand, and they're potentially out of touch, potentially out of time. Jeskai Stoneblade. Okay, here's a Band-Aid to rip off. You're only playing this many spells because you want to play Snapcaster, I think. I'm being a little hyperbolic, but I think I see this a lot where like people they just want to put Snapcaster in the deck. But I really at this point, if I'm gonna play a red play Stoneforge Mystic deck, every single time I'm playing 4 copies of Fervent Champion. You said that you don't have Sentinel or Ranger Captain. I guess that does make it a bit harder to be in on that game plan, because like the Ranger Captain providing redundancy for your Fervent Champion game plan is kind of tough. So maybe you do have to build a deck like this, more spell-based. I'm just trying to wrap my head around like that condition. Just imagine that Captain's not in the format. Because again, a big part of this deck is this provides the redundancy, which allows you to play like a lot of swords and stuff. I will say I would almost definitely play 4 counter spells in this list. I think being able to interact with your opponent's permanence is a really big deal. I think that you're probably playing too many removal spells. I think that playing 9 one mana removal spells and 3 Solitudes is too many. You probably want to cut the bolts or endings. Probably the endings, to be honest, so that you can have a better Snapcaster game plan, because endings like not as good with Snapcaster. I think you can play like 4th counter spell, 3rd Snapcaster Mage. First like Jace, first Wandering Emperor. I'd probably play the first Hall of the Storm Giants over the second Castle Vantress, and maybe not play the Castle Vantress at all. In my opinion, in modern sideboards right now, you should basically almost always be playing 3rd Rest in Peace and before the first Sanctifier in Vec for the Living End matchup. I also think that the matchups that Sanctifiers are really like Grixis Shadow is still around, but it's less popular than it has been, and I generally think that people play too many Sanctifier and Vex in their sideboard because the card is just like sick, and it is a really good sideboard card, but it's also not one that I think is very good right now. But people kind of tend to play it whenever, instead of just only playing it when it's a good card. I do like this. I think I'd probably play a third Veto over third Spell Pierce. This is a fine split, though. I wouldn't ever put Sword of War and Peace in the deck, I think. Kind of want the second Wear Tear in the sideboard, too. It's kind of a lot of loose thoughts, I guess. He's married to sort of Light and Shadow for a soft lock with Ranger-Captain. It's really slow, really hard to assemble. Is not relevant in almost any important matchups. Not like that relevant, right? Okay, so this happened in game 1 where they thought seized a bunch and we drew only lands, and drew another land here. Ugh, brutal. I've got Giver of Runes in my deck. I've got Sword of Feast and Famine. I'm not going to offer this trade, obviously. Maybe my opponent will draw more discard spells now, though. Get to thin the deck, too. Guess that's a spell. Probably makes things somewhat annoying for my opponent. They don't know about the second Arid Mesa, so I'll just play the fetch land they do know about. So they may cast a discard spell, thinking I might have like a Kaldra, Batterskull, Solitude in my hand. Hopefully this is just Grief. Brutality, kill a Sentinel. Cast their own Ragavan. One card left in their hand. They did miss a land drop this game, so it's probably a spell, hopefully a discard spell. I think at this point, it's basically impossible that they would cast a discard spell targeting me, so I'll play the Arid Mesa out to thin some more. There's the Empyrean. We do have, again, 4 Solitudes, Wandering Emperor, Ranger-Captain that can get Giant Killer, Giant Killer itself, so we have like 10 ounces, 11 ounce. That's one of them. Is there any reason to main phase this? I think I'll just do it just in case we don't get got by something weird, but I can't even like really think of anything. Could attack with the Fervent Champion. They can double block though. I think it's probably just better to wait. Okay. Let me attack with the Solitude, I think. And then think what I want to do with Ranger-Captain. Ranger-Captain for Giant Killer gives me an out to another Madcap, but the problem here is that my opponent has been sandbagging one card for this whole game, which is very likely to be a discard spell. And then Giver of Runes is also like effectively an out to the Empyrean, since I can just like block Pro Colorless for a little while. This can also let me get in with the Ragavan. Looks like they have a Brutality. Wait, what? Oh, sorry. They discarded Empyrean. I guess that this may have been the card that was just in their hand for a while. Land for turn, play it then, attack for 4. Opponent decides not to chump block. They do fetch to thin. They take 4 down to 13. Passes back. We go down to 18. A lot of good top decks, and that is definitely one of them. We're going to go ahead and slap that onto the Ragavan, I think. I don't think it's good to sack the Ranger-Captain to, like, you know, beat a lightning bolt. They could just bolt. Malika Rebirth. Sure. Is it just me, or does, like, Citrus Supplier look so bad in their deck? It's like you're going to mill over your own Empyreans. I guess that's fine. They probably have Persist. I guess maybe that's fine. I don't know how many Empyreans they play. Like if it's only 2, it's kind of awkward. There's an Oxybegonus though. That's a pretty good hit. Let's see what we find off the Ragavan. Lightning bolts. Okay. So they get to Ox. I don't think I'm supposed to upkeep Ranger-Captain Sack. Doesn't stop the Ox. Most of the good cards that can play here are creatures. I guess it would stop a top decked Madcap Experiment, but then they would just still escape the Ox. If like the one card they draw for turn is Archon of Cruelty, and then they draw Persist off the Ox, then we'll regret this. But I think it's just better to have the lethal 3/3 creature in play. Voidwalker. Okay, nothing with a Void counter right now. They drew double Voidwalker. I'm not sure how good that is here. I'm also not sure how good attacking is. Attack with everything. They block here, and then they just get to escape their Ox again. Equip Fervents. So equip Fervent Champion. They have to block Ox on Fervent Champion, then they hit them with their Ragavan. Yeah, that's probably correct. Talk about the new Obelixes for Modern. We've talked about it. It's good. It's a cool build around card. I don't think it's going to see tons and tons and tons of play. I think that's lethal. No, that's not lethal. They block here. They go to 1. I can't dash. The Ragavans are legendary, so I can't dash. But I can hit something off Ragavan. I did not hit something off Ragavan. And we pass. Definitely don't want to sack the Ranger Captain and give them a creature. They drew Prismatic Vista for turn, which they probably shouldn't have played because it's pretty dead here, right? Because they're at 1. They probably should have just like maybe found a different land to play this turn off the Ox. Casting something. Is this maybe persist on the Grief? Another Collective Brutality, which will get them up to 3 life, and I doubt that they duress me. So, but this is just going to be -2 to Ragavan, gain 2, and they discard Kroxa. They're currently dead on board though. Okay, they're dead. GG. Right? Oh no, they can cast a Ragavan. They can cast a Ragavan. Yeah, not dead. Cast a Ragavan. They've got blockers. All right, we do have a backup Ragavan here. Okay, that gets the job done. What a wild match against a very interesting deck. What's weird is that we saw Archon of Cruelty game 1, and we saw like 40 cards from my opponent's deck this game, and we didn't see an Archon or Persist. So it's like, did they just board that out? What's going on with that, huh? Okay, my opponent's got no cards in their hand. I'm just not gonna like, waste anybody's time. Dashing the Ragavan. That hits us with the GG. Rabbit Battery was lethal. Yeah, I kind of considered playing a Rabbit Battery in this. I was thinking about that the other day. Like, Rabbit Battery is a 1-drop for Ranger Captain, and it's tutorable from Stoneforge Mystic. But it also kind of doesn't do anything. It kind of doesn't do anything, so I don't think you want to play it. But it is, like, I like Rabbit Battery like more in like Affinity, Hammer Time. In this deck, I feel like I just don't think it does enough, but it is kind of interesting. It's kind of cool that you can like play Ranger Captain, grab Rabbit Battery, reconfigure, attack for 4. Yeah, I don't know, but I have thought about it. We're gonna talk about how good Ted Lasso is. Was season 3 out already? We have to watch season 2. I think you basically always want to lead on Sentinel here. Think the main board swaps are worth the ability to get a free Magus win game 1. I think it is right now. I think like Titan's still a good deck, but it's less popular. And like playing the main deck Maguses actually I think make just like your overall matchup spread worse. At least in this current metagame. Okay, maybe they have a Vial out there. We are playing as Titan. And yeah, obviously like we lose a ton of equity in this matchup, but I'm not sure that the matchup is terrible overall. You still have the Sideboard Maguses. You have Fury, you have Solitude. Sorry, you don't have Fury anymore, but you have Solitude, you have Wear Tear, you have March of Otherworldly Light, you have the main deck Feast and Famine now. So this deck does still have, I think, enough game that I am not thinking. I think that like I'm not even sure the Titan matchup is bad with the Sideboard Maguses. It's just not like one of your best matchups. Okay, so they do need another land in order to cast Titan next turn. They only have 2 cards in their hand. Definitely going to pro-green the Fervent Champ. Don't think I waste my time attacking with the Sentinel. Blade of the Oni. Blade of the Oni is really weak. I really dislike that card. Speaking of the Winota list, so I lost playing for 5-0 last night. We went like 1-2 drop into 3-2 into 2-3. I think we didn't run very well, but it's also definitely a deck that has a lot of variance and that you do need to run well in order to find success with the list. I also think that like the Winota deck feels like it's kind of like a card or 2 away from maybe being really strong one day. Like I feel like, and maybe it's misbuilt too, like I think playing Ignoble Hierarch potentially would go a long way. Okay, they returned Beseiju with the first Growth Chamber, then probably Radiant Fountain. Yeah, so yeah, I do feel like there's room for improvement in building the list. Not sure exactly how I would go about it, but just kind of thinking out loud, I guess. Okay, so we do get to hit them with the Fervent Champion. Unfortunately, they are going to kill my sword next turn. Okay, well, I suppose we get to double block the Titan and then castle kill it? Why not Ignoble Hierarch? Well, I mean, I'm not sure how you fit in the deck. Like I kind of feel like I want 10 tutors. I want the 4 Seasoned Pyromancer, 4 Ranger-Captain. You need like the 4 big payoff creatures, I think, too. I think you need the 8 cheap creatures. And so I'm just kind of the opinion that there's not room. Okay, unfortunately, I can't March the Dryad. I just die. 1 mana short. You could have held up March for Dryad. I mean, this line was way better because it kills the Titan, and like they have to top deck. They have to they have to draw the Dryad that we didn't know was coming. Okay, so we have a lot of cards to bring in. Gonna cut the Esper Sentinel still. Cut the Lion Sash. Cut the Wandering Emperor. I cut the fourth Fire and Ice potentially. So 3rd Fire Ice, it's probably fine. Do you mind explaining why they would win that match? Yeah, so they have 2 copies of Valak at the Molten Pinnacle in play, which allows them to deal damage when a mountain enters 3 damage when a mountain enters the battlefield each. And then the Dryad turns all their lands into mountains, which is going to allow them to attack with the Primeval Titan, get 2 bounce lands or 1 bounce land in any other land, which is going to deal me 12 damage immediately, and then they're going to get to pick up a land with the bounce land, play an additional land off the Dryad, and deal me 6 more damage. And they can even get like bounce land, fetch land to go like to deal like 22 damage if they are playing a fetch land, which they usually do. I'm going to keep this hand. Of course, we've got a answer to Saga, answer to Stoneforge Mystic, Force and Pressure, Magus of the Moon, obviously best card, not 3rd land though. Yeah, or Vesuva to get a 3rd Valakut for more damage. I was thinking, why not Ignoble Hierarch instead of Noble? Oh, you need Ignoble over Noble because it's not a human. Like, you want your mana dorks to not be humans. Because it's like, you don't want to hit a mana dork off your Winota trigger, but your mana dorks triggering Winota is, like, pretty big game. So I do usually like to get Feast and Famine pretty aggressively. I think I'm still going to get it here. And not draw the third land. Yikes. They may go for, you know, this may be like a game like last game where my opponent cast Summoner's Pact and they would die to me drawing a land for Magus. And maybe not. Mickey with the 34 months. Love you too, buddy. Isn't upping the human count not necessarily bad? Hitting a Mana Dork is not a good hit off Winota. It doesn't do anything to hit a Mana Dork off Winota. You always want your Mana Dorks to be non-humans if you can help it, because like it's way more relevant for them to trigger the Winota off the attack than to hit a Winota get hit off the Winota. Okay. So we do get to put the Feast and Famine into play. Land, please, come on. Okay. So let's think about our options. It's probably best to go Fervent Champion, equip Giant Killer. It could be better to go Fervent Champion, equip Magus. Then just let them get a Titan attack, and then Giant Killer the next turn. I can also go... Well, I guess one thing I can do is equip Sword of Feast and Famine to Stoneforge Mystic, float mana in combat, Giant Killer the Primeval Titan, play Fervent Champion post-combat, and then that way I have a protection from green blocker. Doesn't Magus just win? They didn't pact. It doesn't just win, though. They have Forest and Besage You? Yeah. I think it's... They have Forest Besage You in their hand. I'm trying to think, like... I really only lose to Dismember if I go for the Magus line. I think losing to Dismember on this board is totally fine. Oh, wait, sorry. Sorry, I don't know why I thought I had to spend 2 mana to equip. Obviously, that was not the case. So I guess sorry. This is definitely the right line. I get to. Oh, sorry. Oh no. Oh no. I was thinking I could Giant Killer and then Magus. Oh, I obviously should have just played the Stoneforge Mystic first. I was thinking I could Giant Killer then Magus with the mana untap. Obviously, I'm one short. So I'm not going to get to play the Stoneforge Mystic, which is really bad, but I am going to still just cast the Magus because at this point it's correct. Can march a Zeus, so that's just not that relevant. I'd rather be able to like maybe march a Dryad or a Titan or down the line. Okay, so they do have colors. I can Wear Tear to kill the Dryad. So we're gonna go attack with Fervent Champion. They're gonna Besage You my sword, block my Fervent Champion, which I think is fine for them to kill it here, so that I can just kill the Dryad, kill the Titan all in one go. Can March kill Titan? Yeah, you have to like pitch some cards, spend some mana, but it theoretically can, which is pretty important. Like in this matchup specifically, for it to be able to. Where like a lot of times you'll Magus, but then they'll just kill you with a 6/6. So the fact that March can theoretically kill a Titan is actually a pretty big game. Yeah, I was hoping they'd block here. It's okay that they didn't. And then Tear, kill Dryad. Chop down the Giant. March kill Titan's already April. Alright, I guess I have to switch lines then. Giant Killer also does tap down their Colossal Dreadballs, which is pretty good. Or at least relevant. Is it possible to make Doom Foretold work in Modern? Well, I don't know. Like this is also kind of one piece of advice I'd like to give people. A lot of people do have this attitude of, can we make this work? Can we make this work? Like, that's usually the way they phrase it. But for the most part, I think if you want to try to successfully brew in Modern, finding things that are already good and then finding like unique ways to build around them, finding underplayed powerful cards, powerful synergies, metagame calls. That's how I think you should effectively brew, and then trying to make an admittedly underpowered slow card like As Foretold work, or Doom Foretold is just not usually how I like to go about it. Obviously, like if you like As Foretold, Doom Foretold, you are free to build a deck, and you can make it probably somewhat F&M playable. But if your goal is just to play competitively, I think kind of trying to reframe that mindset of making something work is bad. Things usually either work or they don't. Okay, they do have Dismember. Is their hand really Dismember Primeval Titan? Please no. Tank, Titan. Come on. Float mana, then Summoner's Pact. The Titan. Am I dead? I think I'm dead. Because they get Valakut Bounce Land. How many lands have they played this turn? No lands. Oh, they also get to Slayer Stronghold attack. Okay. Playing DRC and Bobble over Epicur and Aether Grid. Well, I was playing 4 Epicur, 2 Aether Grids, so you'd have to cut 2 more cards. I also like the Epicurs and Grids a lot. Titan, Valakut X2. Well, Valakut X2 was only 12 damage there, right? I was technically alive. Valakut plus Valakut killed me. That's just 12 damage though. What was my life total? I guess if I was at 12, I thought it was higher than 12 though. Okay, yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I thought it was higher than 12. Bummer. I will say, like, they drew very well there to win game 3. We obviously lose a lot of equity in that matchup by cutting the Maguses, but, like, I don't even think this matchup feels that bad overall. We're really respecting with the sideboard. yeah, I know my opponent drew really well. Could you march the Dryad? I didn't have enough white cards to pitch, I thought. You need to pitch 2 white cards. We're on the draw with this hand. It's already kind of a mulligan because of the Kaldra. I think I'll go ahead and send it to 6. This hand's better. Okay, turn 1 monkey. They are also on a mull to 6. Y3 Sophie. I've played a lot of this deck. I'm really happy with the 3rd Sword of Fire Ice. Like, in this deck, you're really happy to naturally draw it. I think that, like, people, like, frame the swords very much as, like, this is a card that is a Stoneforge Mystic tutor target. But in this deck, with the 4 Fervent Champions, 3 copies of Ranger-Captain, you're actually just pretty happy to naturally draw your swords. And this is the best one, so you're just kind of happy to play multiples. Okay, we're going to play Giver of Runes, Fervent Champion. If my opponent just attacks here, I think I'm supposed to block with Giver of Runes. After cards like Dryad, Castle Saga, Beseiju Colossus, will any more buffs break Titan? I don't know, man. We'll have to see. Yeah, yes, you could print a card that would make Titan need a ban. Like, there are cards that would do that, but it's like it's kind of likely you would just ban that card, whatever it would be, right? Why no blocks with the champion? My dead champion. Oh, sorry. This turn, because I want to be able to play Sword of Fire Ice and equip immediately. At least I want to have that line available to me. Would you consider blue-white control to be tier 1 in Modern with all 3? I think blue-white's very good. I'd say if it's not a tier 1 deck, it's very close. Oh, right. First Strike. Sorry. Obviously just block with the Fervent Champion because of First Strike. Sorry. I haven't played this deck in a while. Yeah. They're not good. They shouldn't attack. into the Fervent Champion then. Javier even told me that Fervent Champion beats Ragavan in the heads-up fight. I might just be okay not blocking here. No, I should probably block. I've played so much of this deck, it's embarrassing to forget that. I do actually think I want to resolve the sort of Fire and Ice here, since I have basically 2 Fervent Champions in my hand. I really need the sword to stay in play. Interesting to see the Sacred Foundry. I wonder if this is just Murktide that just added the Sacred Foundry, or if it's like Stoneblade or something. Gaving, thank you for the Twitch Prime. Appreciate ya. They excelled Urza's Saga. Okay, I don't know what's going on. Is it Breach splashing white for Teferi? Yep. I did know what was going on. Okay. So I'm not... So because Ranger-Captain's sack ability is so valuable against the Breach deck, I think that it doesn't make a lot of sense to like try to play around on Holy Heat by sacking just immediately. Just gonna go for this. Tad with the 15 months, appreciate ya. Just Guy Breach used to be original. It makes sense for them to loop back around. Yeah, it seems fine. Obviously, you probably get some more sideboard cards too. Teferi's pretty good in the deck. I think I'm into it. I don't know what I'm getting with this Ranger Captain though. Giver is kind of awkward because it doesn't really protect my Fervent Champion, since Procallus makes the sword fall off. Base, the 7 months, appreciate ya. Thank you for the good luck. I'm glad you're really liking the stream. I think I'll just grab a Ragavan. Put in Viv. Okay, so Plainbound Accomplice, put in Viv. Sack for Guardian, Flicker Viv. Sack Guardian for Karma Guide. Get back Feldar. Sack Feldar for Kiki. Copy Guy. Okay. Well, kind of convoluted. But technically a fast kill. Give you a turn 1 kill, actually, if your hand is Manamorphose, Chancellor, 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 Vivian, Land, Plainbound Accomplice. Simple side of 2 games. I think this deck has too many lands. I've played hundreds of matches with the deck. 22 is for a deck with 8 of 3 drops and very mana intensive cards like Ranger Captain, Stoneforge Mystic, Wandering Emperor, Batterskull. So I think we've got the right number of lands. So they found a Canal and not an untapped land. So if they're gonna make a Urza Saga token, it actually just doesn't block any of my creatures very well. It can trade with my Ragavan, which is fine. Is Cat Oven good in Pioneer? Cat Oven is great in Pioneer. What's the reason for moving Blood Moon to Magus? Beseiju being printed, and then like the moon effects are not that good against the 4-color deck either right now, so that we're just kind of moving moving these effects to the sideboard. Okay, I do think I will kill the Construct to keep the Ragavan around. Oh, no, that was bad because they could have sacked a Grinding Station, but thankfully they didn't. Does this deck play March Over Ending because it's a 2-color deck, or is the bigger divider? Yeah, 2-color decks I think usually just want Ending or March instead, but also like it is really relevant that it answers Saga now that we're not main decking the moons. Like having a main deck answer to Saga is really nice in Modern right now, and having 4 of them is really good. I think it's actually better against Hammer Time than Marches. Just the instant speed is such a big deal there. And it's also true this deck plays now 14 other 1-mana spells. So like the mana curve considerations of Ending are like not that relevant. Where there was a deck recently, the Gristlebrand Goryo's Vengeance deck, a lot of people wanted me to play March over Prismatic Ending in that deck, but that deck had like 16 2-drops or something crazy like that, and when you played that many 2-drops, you really can't afford to play. Sorry, when you played that many 2-drops, you want your you want to play Ending for mana efficiency's sake. Opponent just concedes. They weren't dead on board there, but maybe they just think they can't beat the Ranger-Captain. Okay, so we're on the draw against Jeskai Breach. I definitely want the Wear Tears. I definitely want the Rest in Peace. Silence is actually really good against Underworld Breach. Fortuner's okay against the Unholy Heats and the Ragavans. I think I don't want the Wandering Emperor. I think I don't want Lion Sash. I think I may just play like Forge-Tender over Giver. Maybe just trim one of the 2 Givers. Maybe cut the Feast and Famine. Cut the Batterskull. Maybe just play 1 Forge-Tender. Kind of like that. Maybe just play 3 Solitudes. Kind of like that as well. Maybe even just 2 Solitudes. I mean, the Construct tokens get pretty big. We've got March and Wear Tear now too. Isn't Sash a solid luck piece? Sash it's way too slow against Underworld Breach. It's like comically easy for them to go. Like, I'll play a Feast and Famine. It is so easy for them to go through. Silence is pretty much game over on their breaches. I mean, it's just a 1-for-1 against their breaches, and I'm already bringing in like all these Rest in Peace. This hand's probably a mulligan. So we do have this to put 1/1s into play for the sword. My opponent kept 7. I guess I'll try it. Yeah, it's like we already have we have Ranger-Captain for their breaches too. It's like if we were like a lot colder to Underworld Breach, then I'd be a lot more interested in playing that card, but we're not that cold to Underworld Breach. Very good turn 1 for my opponent. It's, I guess, maybe not over because they can tap this for a blue. Yeah. I didn't say Silence was... Yeah, this happens a lot where, like, you recognize that, like, a sideboard card has an application, right? Or I'll talk about, like, okay, this card does this in this matchup, and then I won't board it in. But, like, when I recognize that a card is okay, or it has some game, and I don't board it in, it's because it's not better than other options available. I think a Wear Tear on the sideboard of Life Total Control for Splashing Green for Revelry. I mean, you have to ask yourself what enchantments are you killing, because I think for the most part you just want to play Smash the Smithereens. I have a hat for Examiner. Do you have a hat preference, or do you want me to choose? The one with the horns. I can get that one. Silence stops Imri's activation. That's a really bad exchange for you to silence an Imri activation. Okay, Ragavan, tap Amber for Channeler.
Inspiring Spike.
Dude, the Breach deck is so good, so powerful. I don't really have plans to play the Tamashi deck on stream unless I've got ideas for how to improve the deck. The Tamashi deck's really good, but I don't have any ideas on how to improve it, so I'll just let other players, you know, mess with it on stream. I think I get second Fire Ice here. I move to my new place. Am I going to get a shelf with all my hats on display behind me? I don't know. One fun thing I think I could do, I've been thinking a lot about the new stream setup. But what, you know, a room's got 4 walls, right? So I could actually have 4 setups and just rotate my desk on different days. I think that could be kind of innovative to have, like, you know, multiple setups just like depending on where the camera's pointed to the wall. I'm thinking about a lot of different things. Like, I had a friend who paints, and she offered to do a mural for the stream background, so we could have like the mural and have like the camera pointed to that one day. I don't know. Or we could have, you know, the desk in the middle, just turn it around. Like have one wall with a green screen. Like just make it. Maybe you just paint one wall green. Have a mural on the other wall. Put the canvas on the wall by the door, and like, then you've got a whole other wall to mess around with. Like just like basic streamer, like the trophy behind and stuff. Zergling, thank you for 3 months. Appreciate you. A mural of what? Yeah, I don't know. Haven't got that far. Oh, they're targeting the Stoneforge Mystic? They must have 2 heats. Yeah. This has been an absurd draw. This has been like an ungodly draw for my opponent. Turn 1 Imri into turn 2 Ragavan Channeler. Didn't they cast another spell into like double removal spell? I'm just gonna concede. Absurd draw. Going to game 3. Playing tomorrow, just the main tournament. Just the main tournament. Don't even know what I'm playing in it yet. I kind of like this deck, but we'll see. Hope you got good chord management for rotating desk. Yeah, I guess that would be kind of a pain. Trying to think if there's any like good way to wire it where you can rotate pretty easily. Not really. Yeah, I'm not sure what tournament there is tomorrow at the convention center. If it's just like casual tournaments, right? 3 trials to get 2 buys. It's also my birthday tomorrow. I mean, I've been doing a lot of short streams today or this week. I don't want to miss a stream tomorrow. But that could be fun to go play some trials, try to get 2 buys. Although I don't think anybody would go with me. Or like all my friends have jobs. It's kind of late. Dude, stop with the turn 1 Emrys. I guess we've got the rest in peace. This is 2 games in a row with the turn 1 Emry. I'm playing in the second one. Okay, yeah. What time are the tournaments? Does anybody know? The latest one starts at 4:30. Okay. I also asked Esther to plan something. We've both been really busy and tired with the house stuff, so I'm not trying to do anything crazy or expecting to do anything crazy, but I think Esther has something planned. Base of the 2-pack, assuming that's for a deck tech. 12:30, 2:30, 4:30. Yeah, I could maybe go play the 4:30 one. But I would have to get my deck together for tonight. Yeah, thankfully no Spell Pierce. Could you imagine? Spell Pierce here. Saga is definitely a really, really good pickup for my opponent. Don't know what equipment I'm getting. I kind of just want to grab a Kaldra. Well, I don't know what cards I need because I don't know what I'm playing. I'll figure it out though. So Pioneer, I'm assuming blue-white dragons. I really dislike Fateful Absence. I see people play this card in Pioneer. I don't think it looks very good to me. I think I'd be pretty unlikely to register it. I would play, like, anything else. Oh, Nadar is a dragon? I didn't know that. ETBs or attacks, venture to the dungeon. Okay, this is pretty cool. I would probably play, like, 3rd Nadar or 4th Dragon Lord Ojutai, or just try to see if there's another random playable dragon. But I would like to get the 6th dragon in there. I don't know that I love playing so many sweepers when you have so many creatures, but it's probably somewhat okay. I would also like basically always play 3 Narset in the main deck of these blue-white lists in Pioneer. Narset seems to be, in my opinion, one of the main reasons to play blue-white decks right now. Yeah, the AFR kind of Ojutai Light, yeah. Faithless is the only answer White really has for walkers. Well, you have your own walkers. Like, Narset, like, stops the static ability of a lot of planeswalkers. You also have, this deck has creatures to pressure planeswalkers. You have counter spells. I also like don't think planeswalkers are that prevalent in Pioneer. Like the red black deck plays some, the mirror plays some, but the mirror you're gonna be like loaded up on Dovin's vetoes. Oh yeah, you can also just play Shark Typhoons. Typhoons are like solid answers for planeswalkers, right? I think Rakdos or Gensack is better in Pioneer. I think Rakdos is. The low curve is just like so valuable, I think. Does a lack of fetches in Pioneer help control decks? I don't know. Yeah. Oh, Elona's, thank you for the subscription. I think I missed that. Yeah. So yeah, I think I kind of like maybe just three Nadar, 3 Dragonlord Ojutai. I don't think I'd play the Farewell. I don't think I'd play the Fateful Absences. I think I would probably just play 3rd Narset, 3rd Wandering Emperor, and maybe you actually go down on Teferis because you have all the 5 drops in Dragonlord Ojutai. Maybe 2 Teferis is still fine. And then Sideboard's obviously hard to like comment on too much. I will say I probably like to see the 3rd Rest in Peace. I probably like to see like 4 Dovin's Veto. I'm not sure what Narset's Reversal is good against, but that's also maybe just my inexperience. So like, just I guess I would mostly say don't listen to me too much when it comes to like Pioneer sideboards because I'm just not quite there yet. Burn plays a lot of Chandras. I guess that's fair. I don't know. Reversals for Lotus Field. Okay. Is the idea that you Narset's Reversal there Thought Distortion? Okay. Just gonna Solitude. One of their constructs, I suppose. I guess I'll try to do it after they sack this Bauble. Work on the blue-red Tippo Dragons list. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that one. That one's got a lot of work to do, though. Jumping. This only gains them 1 life. You gotta assume that they're gonna crack this Bauble too. Okay, I'm kind of shocked they didn't crack the Bauble. I guess I'll feel a bit silly if they Metallic Rebuke me. If I mono black coffers, that's what playing is solved in terms of most optimal build. I mean, a deck like that's never solved, where it has like the core engine of Expedition Map, Profane Tutor, and then like literally whatever you want to play on your curve plus cheap interaction. But in theory, you're gonna switch out your removal spells all the time. In theory, something might get printed that's better than Liliana. And in theory, there's like some mystery. Like for a long time, we were like so sure that March was like. We were just like sure that March of Invoke Despair was like the way to go, and Invoke Despair was very good in the deck, but Golos was just better, and I think for that deck it is somewhat likely that there is something out there. I haven't found it. I have been looking, but I do think there's a good chance there's something out there that's better. But for the most part, I think it's pretty solid where it's at the moment. Okay, no more constructs for my opponent. This Rest in Peace card seems to be really good against Breach, huh? Yeah, I've played Turok in the past. It's just kind of awkward on your curve because you have all these Karns. Karn is something I have a hard time imagining ever wanting to like cut from the deck, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like the card just really does exactly what you want it to be doing. What you want the deck to be doing. I don't understand the appeal of Breach over a regular DRC Ragavan deck. Well, the appeal is that you're a regular DRC Ragavan deck that has a 2-card combo kill. that have a lot of synergy with the regular DRC cards. Jin Saga's playing 4 Lily, 4 Pyromancer. Would I consider Grist instead of Liliana? Not instead of Liliana, but you could play like 1 Grist over the 4th Liliana, and that'd be fine. But Liliana does a very different thing than Grist does. Like, if you just want the card that gives you the most value, Grist is the best. But in my opinion, it's like a lot more relevant for Liliana to pressure your opponent's hands and be like meaningful interaction. If you want to play the deck that is just the most value, you should also play Omnath. Okay, they kept a card on top. It's definitely Expressive Iteration. I think there's like no card that they can keep on top besides Expressive Iteration. Okay, but they just concede. Yeah, the downside is opening yourself up to hate cards. Sometimes you do, like, you know, just draw 2 combo pieces. But, yeah, that's the upside. I talked about how Niv played Blood Moon and Astral Blue is legal, or isn't Growth just as busted with playing 4-color Magus? It's not just as good. Astrolabe was a lot better. It let you have a death-touching Ice Fang on turn 2. It let you filter any land into a colored source of your choice when Growth just makes like 1 land, tap for any color. The 4-color deck is, although, like, I do agree that it's problematic that it's able to play Magus, and that it's able to be really resilient to Blood Moon. I think that that's bad for the format overall. I'm not drawing any conclusions about changes that need to happen, but it's bad. It is bad that it's like this, and it is also not nearly as good as Astrolabe. Turn 2 Death Touch on the Ice Fang was absurd. Is there any cards they could unban to make Omnath worse? I mean, that's the thing about Omnath. There's not like there are cards that are good against it. Or at least like banned cards where it's like people are so frustrated that there's no good cards that they can sideboard against the Omnath deck. And I understand the frustration, but that is just how Modern is, right? Where if you want to play a fair deck, you're going to be really resilient to sideboard cards. If you want to play an unfair deck, you're going to be like way more vulnerable to sideboard cards. Captain with the 2-pack. So many deck techs lately. I think I am gonna. I should have Solitude before the Prowess trigger resolves, but I think I am gonna Solitude here. Just stem some of the bleeding. Yeah, can you post the link in the chat? Yeah, I'm actually gonna dash the Ragavan just since this is gonna allow me to cast Batterskull in 2 turns. Yeah, I am. Oh no, I can't cast the Helix. I am happy to do the deck text because this me and Esther are gonna be a little broke for a little while. Arcanist Pioneer. Okay, I know that this deck was like somewhat popular in Pioneer or for a little while. This looks like what I remember the list to be. Although I don't see any Den of the Bugbears or Hive of the Eye Tyrants. I would be playing a lot of Manlands. Okay, I guess we're going to pivot a little bit and have a very disguised ability to kill Eidolon with our castle here. And if they don't attack, we can just cast Batterskull next turn. Maybe we just cast Batterskull next turn anyways, but killing the Eidolon does seem pretty nice. Yeah, I unless there's something I'm missing, I would definitely play playing like 3 Dens, 1 Hive, or 3 Dens, 2 Hives in the mana base. Probably cutting a lot on the Fable passages. Spellbase does look pretty good. Dude, Small's the 10-pack. Thanks so much. I didn't mean to be fishing, but I do appreciate it. Trying to get a read on Traverse plus Arcanist. Well, oh, sorry. I totally missed that you're splashing green. I don't think you can. I'm sorry. I don't think you should. I think that your mana is like much worse with the splashing green. You're splashing only literally this 1 card. I don't think it's good to splash. You have a Solitude on top. Take 4 down to 9. Yeah, it seems correct to just take this and slam the Batterskull. Kato, thank you for Twitch Prime. Bell with 2 months, appreciate you as well. Yeah, I just think I would stick to 2 colors here. I don't think like you only have 2 copies of Traverse 2. Your mana gets so much better not splashing it. Thank you again, Jay Smalls, the 10-pack. If you've got anything you want to say, you can. I would, yeah, I think it's like kind of easy even to just go like cut the Traverses and play like the 3rd Claim Fame and the 4th Fatal Push. But I do think this deck is probably pretty good. I've been meaning to play it too. Swamp Pit with a Twitch Prime, thank you guys. Okay. Boros Charm me down to 5. I can Solitude my own Batterskull, but then they just get to attack me for 4. Sack the Sunbaked Canyon means their hand has to be to land, 1 mana burn spell, 1 mana burn spell to kill me. How does one get gifted a sub? Yeah, it's it just get when a sub is gifted, it's random in the chat. For the newly broke Spike, thank you, Smalls. Do you brew with Omnath and Pioneer? I don't. It is something I do want to start to mess around with. Like, obviously, you get to play it in Omnath. Wait, why are they attacking? Yeah, obviously you get to play it in Omnath. They really just want to kill their Eidolon? Is that all that was? Oh, Skewer. Okay, okay. Fair enough. They have no cards in their hand. We draw a Lion Sash. So I think we're gonna go cast Sash, cast Ragavan, and then I can just trade for the Goblin Guides. Is this bad? I'm not sure. I guess I could have maybe cast the Sentinel and then traded Ragavan for Guide, chump blocked, and then had the Batterskull to equip to the Sash if I drew a land. But not that land. And then my next top card is a Ranger-Captain, which is a really good card game 2 because it gets Forge-Tender. Not nearly as good. Game 1. The guy with 31 months, appreciate ya. Thank you for the congrats. Other than playing Omnath, what's leaning towards brewing it? What's making me want to brew with Omnath and Pioneer is Omnath, I think, is one of the most powerful cards in the format and isn't seeing much play outside of the Niv deck. And so whenever I think you identify something like that, you identify this is one of the best decks, the best cards in the format. It's not seeing that much play. Those are usually the kinds of cards I like to look at to figure out if I can brew around it. I'm not saying that you can, but maybe there is some kind of landfall deck or something. I even think that there used to be a landfall deck that was somewhat viable, right? I thought the fetching is a little rough. I know, but you do have Risen Reef in the format. You have Fabled Passage. There's potentially something there. Yeah. I actually I remember when I won that Pioneer PTQ with mono green. I played against the landfall deck in the top 8, and the deck is very good. The deck is very, very good. Okay, so we're bringing the Forge-Tenders. Wandering Emperor does gain life. I think you bring in the Forge-Tenders, cut the Sash and the Feast and Famine. Or maybe Feast and Famine is better than Kaldra. Although sometimes I get Kaldra if I feel like they've got Smash to Smithereens. I do sometimes get Kaldra against them. No second upkeep. No, I had the ability to Solitude my own Ranger-Captain to gain 3 life in response to a burn spell, which I think was way more relevant. And then I also had the ability to go for, equip to the Ranger-Captain next turn. I mean, this hand is painless. It has a pretty good curve. Keep this every time against burn. I forgot Tamashii Dryad Mystic Sanctuary. Omnath belongs to that shell. Well, you don't have Lotus Field like you do in Modern as like the best thing to return with Tamashi. Harrow is in Pioneer. Is it? I can't remember. You might be right. Kind of doubt that the Stoneforge is going to be good enough here, but we definitely have to cast it, unfortunately. Hopefully no Searing Blaze. I like getting moon effects to get them off white. My moon effect is Magus of the Moon, which is not very good against burn, where they just get to bolt it and Searing Blaze it. It's also like, I don't know, Blood Moon is like a card that isn't literally dead against burn, but it's also like usually not great. Okay, Helixing the Mystic, and then if they attack with Guide, I'll just block with Ragavan. Obviously, we'll trade with Eidolon if they attack with that. Fetching and Shocking, down to 16. Second Goblin Guide. Just here, okay. I have an Arid Mesa on top. Bit of a flood. I think that I play a fetch land this turn. It's kind of close, since I do think there's actually a decent amount of value in not fetching at all the rest of this game. Playing this untapped. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna try to draw well and not try to like scry with the Goblin Guide triggered. I'm just gonna try to draw well. Fervent Champion. I'm not sure if that qualifies. But I am sure that I'm just gonna put the Batterskull into play and hope it's good. There's a good chance they've got Smash of Smithereens, Path to Exile. Boris Charm is also very strong because now I'm dead to 2 burn spells, which is, you know, always kind of tough to do with 3 mana and 3 cards, but definitely possible. They're thinking no attacks. Well, I don't think that I don't think we could pretty much ask for any more than that. Why not Javier, Sentinel, hold up Skull? When you cast Javier and Sentinel, you take 2 damage for each one that you cast. And that puts me to 2, which puts me dead to 1 burn spell. I can't imagine that they have Smash or Path. They would have just cast. Alright. Or attacked. Yeah. Awesome. 3-1. 3-1 can get a 4-1 prediction going. How do you guys feel about choosing this for Dallas? I'm kind of feeling it, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's reasonable. I kind of wish I had some more time to play test it. The sideboard feels like it could use some work. I'm not sure about the Wandering Emperor. I do think it's correct to cut the Maguses. I do like playing it too. Yeah. It does make sense to me to move the Maguses to the side. I go Jund Saga. I know I had like that crazy I was 13-2 the first time I played Jund Saga. Then I had like a mediocre tournament with it. And then like the next time I streamed it, I just kind of I had a fine, like slightly above average day. But I definitely haven't had like a crazy run with Jund Saga since that first day. We are playing as Giganta the Wellspring. I guess I'm gonna keep this, and I think I'm putting back Ragavan. No, I'll put back March, but I'm just gonna play Sentinel on turn 1. Definitely a point for other fetch land over Vista here. How's the 4-color Living In matchup? Living In's a really good matchup with this deck. Living In is a really good matchup with this deck. 4-color is unfavorable. Okay. Waiting, not giving me any cards. Makes some sense, I guess. I wish I'd let on the Ragavan. I don't know. I think like the fact that Giganta can very easily mean Shadow, and the fact that like we're likely to draw a card if we play Esper Sentinel on turn 1, I do think it makes sense to lead on the Sentinel here. Guess play Marches over Ending. Without Magus's Answer Saga is really important, and March I think is better in a 2-color deck than a 3 than Ending is in general, but I also like this deck has a really low curve. This deck has a really low curve, so I like the Endings over March is like just kind of fine for your mana curve because you have many other 1-mana plays. Okay, 2 awkward draws, but Golos unawkwards it and we go to game 2. We do get to bring in the Maguses from the board. Probably cutting all the Solitudes. Maybe we play 1 Solitude. I think Wear Tear is good on the play. A lot worse on the draw, though. March is also not that good in this matchup. Wandering Emperor is not that good. What if I just play Silence? Silence is kind of like Time Walk. Deck for Magnus. Can you post the link in the chat? Thank you. Yeah, I think I'm feeling the silences. Okay, well this is kind of the nuts. Turn 1 Ragavan, turn 2 Magus. This is modern Jeskai Ascendancy combo. Mr. Begin deck, what's the reason for cutting Fury? When you move Magus to the side, your red card count isn't high enough, and we're also adding more marches, so we have more removal spells anyways. I also don't feel like Fury is great in the metagame. I don't think it's terrible either. I could maybe play Sentinel Chromatic Star this turn, or I could also go Sword of Fire Ice this turn, next turn equip, and then play Magus. That's a lot of pressure on my opponent. I think I'll do that. Well, this list seems relatively stock, from what I can tell. I do think the main deck silences are kind of weird, but I know that I've seen it be somewhat common for these decks to main deck the silences. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I thought I could cast Magus this turn after the equip. I can't, but I just get bailed out by my own silence. I know it's a bit weird to me here. I also feel like Prismatic Ending is probably going to be your premier removal spell. Sorry, it's hard to do these deck techs and then play at the same time, but I think Prismatic Ending is going to be your premier removal spell because it removes lock pieces. Probably should have played the Sentinels first too. Ending over Bolt, yeah. So yeah, Ending over Bolt is something I want to see. And I think I just kind of like the idea of playing 4 main deck endings and moving the silences to the sideboard, and potentially those silences are just Veils. I guess you just have the Veils on the sideboard, but I don't think that they seem to be that necessary. And then obviously talking about your Glittering Wish sideboard slots is probably pretty tricky, right? I think on the draw I'll play 1 Solitude over the March. I will say that this seems like too many Glittering Wish targets when, like, most often you're going to get Wear Tear, Jeskai Ascendancy, or Flesh and Blood to kill your opponent. The fact that you also have, like, iterate, like when are you ever going to get iteration over Teferi? Like, does that actually happen? When are you getting iteration over Jeskai's Ascendancy? Does that actually happen? Do you ever get Eruth? And you might say, yes, I do get these cards. But it's also like, do you feel like having the option to get this card off of your Glittering Wish gives you enough of a boost in your win percentage, a different sideboard card would give you. And that's the question you have to ask for each of your sideboard cards. Is like, is this Wrenn and 6, the failures to comply, expansion explosion? Do these give me a higher win percentage than a different sideboard card would? And I think it is fine to have mostly a wish board here. Like, this is definitely one of those decks where it is like the most okay to have a wish board, since like you are a linear combo deck and you don't really need to like board different reactive cards. It is fine, but this is just the question you need to ask for each and every single one of your sideboard cards, and obviously I hope that you determine the answer is yes, but I do really think Ending is better than Bolt and Silence in the main deck. Answering the lock piece is really relevant, and beyond that, I think the list is pretty solid. Okay, I think that I want to play Javier Stoneforge Mystic this turn, and then I can equip Feast and Famine and smack him next turn. I think your Yorion Kiki Cordless is any game in the meta. It's probably okay. I guess I should probably silence them too, because I'm kind of cold to Oblivion Stone this turn. I've been meaning to replay the Kiki Core deck. I just haven't lately. Okay, then we cast the Feast and Famine because it's just, a bit more mana efficient. Although I suppose if we're playing around a removal spell, I mean, never mind. Because it's like, if they have removal spell, they're killing Magus. They're not killing my Fervent Champion here. The opponent says Golos versus Silence, classic modern matchup. Okay. I guess I'll just have the ability to put out the Batterskull. I've been jamming that Kiki core list with some changes, running pretty well recently. That's good to hear. The Kiki core deck's like really near and dear to my heart. Okay, so we did 4-1 our first league with this deck. I feel like the changes here make a lot of sense to me. I don't know. I feel really lost. I playtested some Jeskai Lotus Field off stream last night. I went 4-1. I feel pretty good about that deck. I was kind of going in today thinking that Jeskai Lotus Field was probably going to be my choice for this weekend's tournament, with like the potential to play this if today went really well. What about Thalia CMC2 in this deck? It's really awkward to play Thalia in a deck that's trying to hardcast the swords. How did the Wanderer perform? We didn't draw it once. Right? We didn't draw the Wanderer once. I didn't get paid for my prediction. It takes a second. It takes a second for me to pay it out. It's not automatic. Yeah, Thalia kind of hurts the marches too. It's a lot better with Ending.